Amigos de California Rifa, ¿cómo están? Estoy muy contento porque vine a un lugar muy bonito que está aquí a mis espaldas. Este lugar es un lugar donde hacen conciertos, hacen muchas cosas. Hace un tiempo vine aquí a grabar unos acróbatas que bajaban del edificio, el mismo edificio a donde venimos hoy, pero hoy vamos a experimentar algo que tenía tiempo que no hacía, que es un concierto. Así es que estamos esperando la hora de entrada para poder deleitarnos con esa música clásica. Esperando que les guste este video aquí en California Rifa. Saludos para todos y espero que se la pasen bien.
Take a look to your left and your right and notice these exit signs. Those are all doors you can leave out of if we needed to evacuate the building for any reason. And with that, I'm excited to present the talented Santa Rosa Symphony Youth Orchestra and our concertmaster, Yehoang.
Thank you so much for being here today. You all look fantastic. How are you? Yeah. We are the Santa Rosa Symphony Youth Orchestra, and I am their conductor, Jacob Wong. I want to ask you a question. How many of you have been to any live concerts? Any live concert music? Yeah. What about specifically an orchestra concert? How many of you have been to an orchestra concert? What if this is your first time seeing a live orchestra? It's first time seeing. Can you guys give them a round of applause? Thank you for being here. Let's get the music going, shall we? you so much. You guys are a fantastic audience. We would like to introduce you guys to some of our amazing instruments you see on stage. The first family of instruments we would like to introduce you is the string instruments. Right. So if you guys can kind of look at who do you think the string instruments are, and I'll hand my mic to our principals to introduce them.
My friend Yeha right here, and we play violin. The violin is a really cool instrument because, see this thing? It's called the bow. It's made of horsehair. When you drag it across the strings, it vibrates them and makes a beautiful sound. Now Yeha and I are going to demonstrate how that works.
And I play the viola. It's very similar to the violin in that you use the bow to make noise and you move your fingers to change the pitch, but it's a little bit bigger than the violin, and that's because it plays lower. We have a C string. So this means that the viola gets to play some fun harmonies in the orchestra, and we get to play some fun rhythms too. This is what the viola sounds like.
The cello is played very similar to the other string instruments, but it's a lot bigger, and we always sit down. The cello is a low-range instrument, so that means that we usually have to play the lower bass rhythm line that supports the higher melodies. And we always love it when the composer gives us a chance to sing those melodies.
So this is called the double bass, and it creates a really low, grumbly sound. So its job in the orchestra is it creates a nice foundation for the rest of the orchestra to play off with their harmonies and melodies. This is what it sounds like.
Round of applause for our string instruments. And speaking of string instruments, we would like to welcome to the stage our Simply String program. composer send song. This is some party music going, Bacchanal. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day.
Amigos de California Rifa, ¿cómo están? ¿Qué tal les pareció ese bonito concierto? La verdad es que cosas así a mí me gustan mucho porque se toma uno un descanso para ponerle atención a cada instrumento. Como pudieron ver, la mayoría de los instrumentos fueron presentados. Los que no fueron presentados es porque eran instrumentos dobles o triples o los que hayan sido. Pero lo más importante para mí fue que le dieron el espacio a cada muchacho que toca en esta orquesta. Es una orquesta sinfónica de aquí de la ciudad. Y la verdad es que no le piden nada a gente profesional, porque yo lo escuché perfecto. Se me hace muy padre el ver cómo aquí en Estados Unidos apoyan la música de esa manera. Y el propósito principal de traer a los niños a que escuchen este tipo de música es para que ellos conozcan lo que se puede hacer con cada instrumento y que al mismo tiempo ellos sientan el deseo de querer hacerlo algún día también, igual que los muchachos grandes que ya son de aquí de la universidad o de la preparatoria. Tuvieron algunos invitados como niñitos de primaria, pero en general estuvo muy bonito. A mí me gustó mucho. Espero que les haya gustado a ustedes también. Recuerden que en esta vida uno tiene que conocer un poquito de todo. A veces nos enfocamos nada más en lo que ya conocemos, pero hay muchas cosas todavía en el mundo que no han sido descubiertas y que a veces nos enfrascamos nada más en lo que a nosotros nos gusta, lo que hemos conocido o lo que el mismo sistema nos ha presentado. Y es bueno de vez en cuando salir de la rutina, salir del diario vivir. Yo me sentí muy contento de haber venido. Espero que les haya gustado, igual que a mí. Y que pues pensemos más que nada en el hecho de ver lo que estamos viendo en el mundo en este momento, que la verdad se están viendo cosas que yo cuando era niño no me imaginaba ver todo lo que estoy viendo. No me sorprende. Creo que cuando vienes de un lugar donde creciste con tanta violencia, ¿qué te puede sorprender? Pero sí me pongo a analizar en lo que van a vivir mis hijos, mis nietos, y yo digo, qué increíble es que yo haga la diferencia para que mis hijos también a su vez hagan la diferencia con sus hijos. Así es que sin más preámbulo, pues les deseo que pasen feliz el resto del día. Saludos para todos, bendiciones, y espero que les haya gustado el video aquí en California Rifa.
Very loud. And like the last piece, here we go. Next, we have the bass drum. Now, if you use your eyes, the bass drum is a really big drum. And it also has a lot of bass to it, to the point where you can feel the bass. You guys feel that? I do it. But also, because it's so big, you also play it very loud. Yeah. Next, we have the snare drum. Now, the snare drum is a very, very big part of the drum set. Does anyone play drum set in here? Yeah, we love to see that. It has a set of snares at the bottom of the drum. It makes it sound like this. Next, we have the crash cymbals. Now, also among the main instruments of the drum set, but also we can also hold them and clash them together to make a big clashy sound. Whoa! And finally, we have the xylophone. Now, the xylophone is one of the many instruments of the mallet side of the percussion family. Yes, we have mallets in this. It's very similar to the piano, except instead of using 10 fingers, we have 2 mallets. Woo! Thank you, everyone. One more round of applause for our brass.
I play the tuba. This is my friend Sam. He plays the bass trombone. And our instruments look really different. Mine's a lot bigger than his, but they're actually pretty similar. We are the lowest of the brass, so we're kind of like the double basses, but for the wind section. The biggest difference between us is that I use valves on here, and Sam uses a slide, like the other trombones. Now, since we're brass instruments, we use mouthpieces like the other brass, and they make a really silly sound when you just use it. But when you put them in the instrument, it sounds a lot better. So now we're going to play something that I hope you should all recognize.
Looking one, kind of built strangely. But like Luca's instrument, it is a double reed. So you see my reed here, I can just play the reed. I don't even need to have the whole instrument with me. It's kind of silly sounding, right? So I do have to sit down to play my instrument, kind of like the cellos, and I do have a similar range to the cellos, but I am a woodwind. So here's a little song for you guys.
Brass family of instruments, which means it uses this little mouthpiece to make sound, and much like the oboe and bassoon, when you play this mouthpiece on its own, it makes a fun sound. But once you put it into the instrument, it makes a much smoother sound, as you'll hear now.
Trumpet also uses a mouthpiece just like the French horn and very similar to the woodwinds. And now I'll play for you a short little melody.
Hi everybody. So the cool thing about the trombone is a slide, which unlike the other instruments, the piece, like the slide, is so much cooler and so much better than everyone else. So the slide, I'll show you, can do a lot of cool things. And then also, you can also do a lot of other cool things, which you can look out for in the next piece that we're playing. So yeah, I'll play a little something.
So here's how the clarinet works. You can see at the top there's a little round piece of wood, which is called a reed, because it's made out of wood, and that's why it's called a woodwind. So it vibrates against the clarinet, which makes a sound, and it sounds really cool, better than anybody else. So I'm gonna just go ahead and play it for you.
It's a woodwind, but it's actually not made of wood, so that's funny. But anyways, it works by blowing over it like a bottle. When you blow over it, it makes sounds.
From a clarinet, first of all, it's better than a clarinet, but we won't go into that. But the reed is a little different. The reed has two pieces of wood that are placed next to each other, and when they vibrate together, they make a funny sound. This is what it sounds like off of the instrument. Funny, right? But when you put it onto the instrument, it makes an even better sound. Now, I'm going to play something that hopefully all of you recognize.